Hello, this is Bill with Advice PC Group, and I just came across another issue in regards to Microsoft Windows updates. Now, mind you, the machine that we're going to be looking at is one of my production machines. This machine has 12 gigs of RAM. It's a quad-core AMD system. I have just completed a Windows update here about 3 days ago and about 5 days prior to that, and it continues to come up and say it needs to be rebooted. So some of the things that I want to show is going to be about the actual process and the evaluation of what is going on with the system. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to present enough information that it makes sense for everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the Windows update settings first. And of course I have two screens on this machine, so I got to slide it over. So at this point, okay, you can see here that it says it needs to have a restart. Now it's saying awaiting restart, and it's telling me it's an cumulative update for 01 of 18, and it's for the 1709 Windows 10 version of Windows. So when I come in here and look, okay, it tells me that it's successfully installed this feature update on 119, like I said, just been a few days ago, and one on 120. And so it looks like that 3 times this week. So I'm going to take that back out of the way, and I'm going to show you what is happening. Now I've created a dummy estimate here. This QuickBooks is all set up into Outlook to work with Outlook 2013. And when I go in here and I say I want to email it, it comes up and it tells me unable to send emails to Outlook. Now, most people may think this is a QuickBooks problem, but it's not. Okay, so what I did is I brought up, and I'll bring it over. This is the actual logs, and I'll just so you know, I know it says a lot of errors and there's no information entries here, but that's because I'm in a special mode that shows just the errors. But what I want to show you, and you don't have to understand what this means, but right here it says machine default permissions settings do not grant activation permissions. So this is a permissions problem. This particular Calm server application is the connection between the two, the QuickBooks and the Outlook. So basically what you see here is you see several of these, because I've tried this several times. I've actually closed Outlook. I have closed every connection to Outlook. I have closed QuickBooks and reopened it, and none of it actually worked. So when I saw this, and I know that Windows Update, whenever they make changes, it blocks security until it is actually installed. So what you may see is unable to access some shares, unable to access new shares, unable to actually print to network printers. So there are some things, you know, there that it can cause. So I'm going to bring this back out of the way, and unfortunately I'm going to have to stop the video because I need to restart this particular machine. So when I bring it back up, I'm going to have the same things open, and we'll be able to show you kind of what is going on. So it's taken a good 5 minutes for it to reboot and install all these updates, that one update. And it seems like every time after a Windows update, the disk runs almost consistently for a long period of time. Now, I am running a recording program on here, which of course is using a lot of my GPU stuff, but that's really not the biggest issues. A lot of them are the .NET optimization was actually high before I could get this thing up and going, but I wanted to go ahead and be able to show you one of these things about when you reboot after a Windows update, it is probably going to run sluggish for at least about 5-10 minutes after that it is done rebooting. So I have, as you can see, completed my reboot, and I have not tested anything at this point. I have just literally brought it back up, got the recording program going again. And if I was running this in a virtual machine, I probably could have just kept it recording and been a little bit easier. You could have seen a little bit more about what was going on behind the scenes. But this just happens to be a production machine. So I'm going to bring over the Quickbooks thing now. This is the same sample that we saw before. And I'm also going to bring up the Windows Update. And I want to show you that it should show that it has completed all of the updates. Coming up here just in 1 second. Okay, so one of the reasons why you always have a high utilization is as soon as you do a reboot, Microsoft kicks off a new check for updates. But I just want to go in here and I want to look and I want to see that everything is actually installed. Now the funny thing is it's still showing from a prior day. So it's showing from the 20th, which is last Thursday, I believe. And but the two items that were here that said it needed a reboot are both done, and we don't see anything that needs to be done for an update at this moment. So I'm going to bring this back out of the way, and I'm going to open up Outlook because I want to make sure that there's no interference with the program not running at the moment. It should actually execute okay, even though it's not open, but I just want to make sure that I cut out any possible issue that may be a false complaint about Windows updates. So I do have it up on my other screen, so now I'm going to go into email the actual estimate, and it's taking a little bit and it still says it won't connect. So now I'm going to go look. I'm going to see if I can disconnect that again. Okay, I've actually disconnected Outlook from the actual program here. And now I'm going to try it one more time. Okay, so now at this point, because it's still doing the same thing, I have to make the assumption that part of the problem is it now has to run in compatibility mode. So I'm going to take this out of the way. Of course, you can still see that we're still running at 100% on the disk drive, and this is by no means a solid state drive or a real high-end drive. It's just your standard desktop drive that's in this machine. But you can see there that the .NET runtime optimization is still running with the CPU very high, and it's still doing something, okay, behind the scenes, but it's just not being clear. Now, one other thing I want to show you is when I went to restart it from Windows Update, and I clicked the restart button here, this is actually what came up. Now, this makes absolutely no sense. It leads me to believe there's a problem in the Windows Update that just got installed. I won't know if that is going to be the issue at this time, but that is the path that I am starting to think that Microsoft has broke the program. Well, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause this and see if I can go ahead and troubleshoot without recording everything to see why that this may be happening. Look at what actually has happened. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and complete the final step in the process about the problem between QuickBooks and Outlook. As I mentioned earlier, after a Windows update, I was unable to send emails through Outlook from QuickBooks. And there's a link that you create within the QuickBooks program that allows you to do that. Now, of course, I'm not going to show those steps, but I want to go ahead and cover what I found in the end. Now, this took several hours and several steps for me to try to prove what it is. Unfortunately, most of the information on the internet in searches, including the forums of QuickBooks, does not truly provide the best steps or the correct information or cause. So as we see here on the screen, I have that same item up that I want to go ahead and send as an email. So what I do is when I click on that, of course it's going to tell me I need to change it. And I will bring it up, and as you can see, it is going to send an email without any problem. Now, of course, this is the message that came up before, but as you notice, I closed it, and so it was never sent, because of course I'm not going to send it. So I wanted to go ahead and present this and show that it does work now. Now, with all that being said, what I want to do is explain what I found. In the logs, I actually found that there were numerous errors that were showing. And I'm going to jump over to this, and I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the errors that I found. Let me see. So you got to give me just a minute here for me to go ahead and grab this. But basically, I was finding that there were security errors that was happening in the logs for security between COM, DCOM, and what they call pill-fill. So these things were telling me that it could not access the security token that is required for it to communicate across. So I had done a repair on QuickBooks. I have actually tested what they call MAPI. In other words, where you open up Word and then you send a document via email. That has to work for another app like QuickBooks to use it. And all of that was working. So I repaired QuickBooks, no change. Finally, I started the repair on Office. Well, this repair took about 45 minutes, and in the end, it was the cause. So what I was able to determine is that the Outlook was blocking third-party connections, and during the repair, it reset the little authentication token within Outlook to allow it to send again. So very long steps, very long amount of troubleshooting, but I wanted to find out what the true cause was. Now, this information has not been posted on the QuickBooks website. They tell you to go through all these other steps, and the very last step, they say, is to repair Office. So the issue that they're trying to say is it's a corruption within the Outlook, but it's not, because I proved it through the test between Word and Outlook. It is third party only. Now, I do not know if this is going to be an issue with other apps, but I can tell you QuickBooks. So with that, I want to go ahead and say thank you, and I'm going to conclude this video. Thank you for watching. Please share and like.